just out of curiosity, have you ever wondered about those really kinky, strange, out of nowhere books? Let me give you an example. So last month, sorry, before I get into that, I follow this Instagram. It's like Ruby Reads or something. I'll put it in the description below. But she, every month or every holiday, comes up with a list of books that are just so unhinged. And I live for that list. Not that I read them, but lately I have. But the first one I read was Riding the Headless Horseman. I did read that during October. I was like, what the heck, Like, I just want to see what it's about. It was unhinged. That's the word for the couple books that I'm going to talk to you about. It was okay. It was a very short story, obviously. It could have been way worse. I will say that. It could have been way worse. Of course, it could have been better. It was just interesting. It was interesting. And then for this month, we are in Thanksgiving territory. We are in November. We are in turkey season. And Miss Ruby from her Instagram posted book suggestions. She's not recommending them. They're just suggestions if you're curious like I am. And one of them I did read today. It was only 16 pages. Me and my best friend Kat, she was like, I send her that post every month or every time. And she's like, yes, let's read these. And I was like, okay. So we did read Stuffed by the Were-Turkey. It is just as terrible as you are imagining. And I hope you're not imagining it, because it was to the point where I did not care if I was yucking someone's yum. I was like, this is so disturbing. This is so unhinged. I absolutely cannot even. Did I finish? Yes. But I cannot let anyone know, even though I'm telling you on here, I cannot let anyone know that I read this. And Caitlin was reading it on her flight. They got it delayed a little bit. So she's like, I'm just going to hurry and read it before I take off. And she's like, I need a privacy screen for this, because she is up here with her phone in front of her face. Like, I can't let anyone know that I'm reading this. And it was absolutely unhinged. It was just, like I have no words. It was to the point where I was like, this is gross. Like, this is gross. Only 16 pages, but it was a turkey that grew a man's body, but still had a turkey head. And I just can't get behind that. He got behind her, but I just, let's move on from that one. Is Caitlin going to make me read another? Yes. We are going to be reading another one once she lands from her flight. And we are going to read Home for the Gobble Days by Latrexa Nova. It's an erotic Thanksgiving ghost story. I mean, it's 64 pages, so it's going to be a little bit longer than the other one, but I'm not ready, and I don't want to ever be ready for a story like that, but am I going to read it? Absolutely. Because it's an adventure. These books are an adventure. And I try real hard not to yuck someone's yum. Because if you're into that, go for it. Could never be me. Absolutely. Will I read it and still give those authors a support? Yeah. But it's just not my cup of tea. It's just not for me, and that's okay. That's okay. Yeah, I will keep you updated. I will give you the update on Thursday when I do my mini episode on how that little book went, But today's book is so much better. So much better. And yes, today's book is not in the spooky, scary, category that we did for October, because it is November now. And I did have a book that I wanted to do for October still, but I don't know if I just didn't finish the book, or I just completely forgot what most of it was about. and it was kind of a dark book anyways, like a dark romance. It was Anathema by Carrie Lake. It was interesting, and I think I want to reread it because I don't think I understand really what it was about. You know, like usually I can pick up themes and the subject matter and kind of like the goal of the characters. Like usually I can pick that up pretty quick, but with this, like nothing really stood out. It was just kind of dark, and it was a slow burn, and I just don't remember the end. And I want to say that this is part of a series, but the series hasn't come out yet. So I think I'm going to put it on the back burner because eventually I think I do want to talk about it. But it just didn't work out for the month of October. And then also this series I started is The Kingdom of the Wicked by Carrie Monaskalo. I think that's the last name. So that is a 3-book series, and I have all 3 books like physically here. And I read the first one a long time ago when only the first one had been out. And by the time that I finished it, the second one I think was just announced or something. And so it's been a while. So I am reading that series, and then I'll do an episode on all 3 of them. But that would have been perfect in October. And I think I want to do a couple like holiday books in December, and I'm just starting to like gather up what I want to read for that. I mean, I already did like the Christmas Tree Farm, so that was an early Christmas book, Christmas recommendation. So there's that. But let's get back to today's book, which we are going to be talking about Crossroads by Devney Perry. And the only reason that this book came up is because I saw the second book to this series came out, and I was like, oh, that looks interesting. And everyone was really excited about the second book. And I was like, oh, I've heard of Devney Perry, but I haven't looked into her stuff really. I was like, okay, so I'll pick up Crossroads, and then I'll see how that goes, and then see if I want to do Sunlight, which I did. I liked them. They are a small town cowboy, kind of like the Elsie Silver and Lila Sage, like kind of like a ranch, but with this ranch, it has a resort with it. And I really liked that change from just like, oh, they're just good old cowboys and in the small town. Like I liked that it was a lot different, you know? And I went into it blindly. I didn't know really what it was about. I don't even think I knew that it was really like a cowboy romance, anything. I was like, oh, I've just heard that it's good, and I'll just go for it. And it didn't disappoint. I would say it's like a 3 out of 5 Spice. For the mother-sister standard, I think if they wanted to read it, I'd be like, yeah, that's fine. They would just like skip the really spicy parts, which it's pretty detailed in the spice, but it's not like constant. Like I felt like there was an actual plot, and the romance was really like the main focus, in like their relationship together and how they come back to each other. And it wasn't so much about like the main focus being about the sex, which is really nice. I really like when it's kind of like a secondary around their relationship, but it's not just like, oh, they're constantly doing this. Which I will update you that I just started the last book of, not the Blood and Ash series, but the Flesh and Fire series finally from Jennifer Armentrout. I think I got an hour in because I'm listening to it, like maybe an hour, 2 hours, and the story hasn't progressed. But they've freaking had sex like a million times. And I'm like, I am not here for that. Like, sure, it's great, but like those books have so much that I'm like, I just want to know the story. I want to know how this ends. I want to know what's happening with this. I want to, like, at this point, I'm like, yes, great. We know that they love each other. I'm not here for that. I'm here for the plot. I'm here for like the story progression. Like it's just really frustrating. So I don't know how long that will take me to listen to. But I just wanted to update you that I did start. Okay, now back to this. I did like, this book did surprise me, especially at the end. There are a little twists at the end. Like they're not bad twists, they're definitely good. And I'm not going to share those just because it does make the story better. But you find out like right at the end pretty much. And so I'm going to tell you about the story, but I'm not enough that there'll be spoilers, and I'm not going to share like the twists or anything like that. And this book, I'm not usually a fan of like from present to past, back to present, back to past. I'm not usually a fan of those. Like I like a very linear timeline, and maybe like a jump back like one or two times if it's like really important that we know a certain thing about a character. But this one was interesting because it would go back to her being different ages of like growing up, which we'll get into. And I did like the characters. Like, I felt like there wasn't a lot of growth with the characters. Like, you're not really getting into like the nitty gritty of who they are, like what's made them who they are. It was kind of surface level character growth as they're growing together. And that was the main focus, is their relationship throughout the years and coming back together. That was like the sole focus. And so I wanted more details about like the characters and more just like, I don't know. I just felt like I didn't know a lot about like the ranch or just the characters in general. And I don't know. Like I think I'd want a longer book too. Things were kind of rushed, and it's okay. Like overall, it was a really great book, and I do recommend it. But we are going to get into this more now because it does jump from like present to past, present to past. It would be confusing to tell you guys about it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start from the past up to the present, so that you get a more linear timeline. Which I think is easier to understand than maybe being like, oh, present this, and then when she's this age, and then this happens, and then back to, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think this works a little bit better. So starting back when India is our main female character. She was 8 when they first started coming to this ranch. And her family is very wealthy. They are in Texas. That's where they live. And every summer for about a week, they come up to, is it Wyoming or Montana? I always like get confused, or not confused. I just can never remember which one it is, because usually it's one or those two, So they drive up and they stay there for a week because it's her dad's favorite place. He loves coming there. He just always has fresh air, and it's just really good. And so sometimes they fly in, sometimes they drive up. But yeah, they're very wealthy, and they just want to go to this little ranch resort. And her dad does large real estate business and has his own company. And so that's where their money comes in. And at this point, we do learn that her dad has cancer. And that's one of the reasons why they do come up there too, just to get him some fresh air, some relaxing. It's just good for his mental health. And this is also where she meets West. So West is one of the sons, one of the Haven boys. So we have Curtis, who's the dad, and then we have West, and then we have Jax, who is the brother, which Jax actually he doesn't share their mother. He has a different mother, but that's kind of a little side story that you learn about. India first gets there. She's young, of course, like 8, and West is 2 years older than her, so he's 10, and his dad basically assigns him to her and says like, hey, she's the guest. Please like entertain her. Please make sure like she's having a good time. Like really take her under your wing. And so he does, and they become really good friends. And so each year she'd come back, and they were really, really good friends. And it wasn't until she was 16, and at this point her dad, his cancer went into remission. And then when she was around 16, 18-ish, I don't know the exact timeline for there, his cancer did come back. But when she is 16, she shows up at the ranch. I think she hadn't been there in a year or so. And West kisses her, like during their stay. And they just do kisses. She's 16, he's 18. And when she comes back at 18, I think that's when she had missed a year. But when she comes back to 18, her and Wes hang out again because they really have been like best friends. Not best friends, but like really good friends for that 1 week, because they don't look each other up like on social media or anything like that. They just have that 1 week of friendship, which is really kind of cute. And so when she turns 18, they, like start talking. And at this point they had kissed. And so like when they were 16. And so they were kissing, and then like he takes her virginity. So they, at this point, have grown up together, and they've shared that experience. And she goes back, and she always has fond feelings for him, and him for her as well. And she comes back at 23. So she graduated from Baylor. And actually, I don't know. Ooh, it says it like jumps to 23, but it doesn't really mention if she does come the other years. I assume so, like maybe every other year. I don't really know. Like maybe I missed that detail. So she's at 23. She just graduated from Baylor. Her dad is still pretty sick. I don't think he has cancer anymore, but he just always catches illnesses. Like his immune system is down. He's just always very sick. And so she gets there, and she meets this Courtney girl, which Courtney is kind of a side story as well. But basically Courtney says that her and West are engaged. And so India's like, okay, well, I know where I'm not wanted. And so she basically stays in the cabin. And later on in the years, in like the present, he tells her like, yeah, I was camping, like I knew you were there, but I didn't want to talk to you about this. So it's like, oh, okay. So she leaves, and when she is 24, she is now married to Blaine. So Blaine worked at her dad's company, and he was pretty higher up. His dad really liked, or her dad really liked him. And so she was like, oh, it's just a natural thing. Like we will be together. They were together for like 6 months, and then they got married. And so when they go back to the ranch, because her dad really wants to go, and so her and Blaine go, her and Blaine are always bickering. They're always arguing. They're never getting along. They're better away from each other than they are together. Like she really at this point is like, why did we get married? But they're together, and so they get to the ranch, and she sees West, and he knows that she's married. He's like, hey, I heard you got married. They have a little like moment, not like a sexual moment, but just like, a fondness moment of like years of friendship, that now she's like, oh, I heard about you and Courtney. He's like, oh, that didn't go anywhere. Like we didn't go through with it. Stuff happened. And so she's like, oh my gosh, so I got married for nothing, basically. Not like that line of thinking, but kind of. And so she's like, oh, great. Like, well, we can't really do anything now. And so she's gone. And now it's present day, where it's been 4 years since she has been there. She actually bought the ranch. There's a lot of backstory with that, and kind of with like the twists and everything. So I can't tell you a lot about it, but she's 28. She hasn't talked or seen West in 4 years. There's some things happening with the company that she's like, I'm buying this ranch. And so she's like, I'm going to spend a year here. And then there's like this agreement between her and Curtis, which is the dad, for some things to happen. And you don't find out those things until the very end of the book, which that's kind of like one of the twists. But she's like, okay, I'm going to stay here for a year, and I'm going to completely fix it up. It's kind of like desolate. Like the ranch, like the resort part at least, has not been doing well. Just kind of run down. Like they've ran out of money. And that's why Curtis sold to her. Because she had a really good offer, and she's always cared about the ranch, and there's some more things in play for that. But she's like, okay, I'm going to do this. Like she has the funding, like she has the money. She's hella rich. And so she does. So she arrives and she meets with Curtis, and Curtis is like, oh, I haven't told them. And she's like, great. Thank you so much for not telling them. And they come into the office. West sees her, and he's like totally caught off guard. And so Curtis tells them, and they get angry, and then it just kind of starts from there. And so India is trying to create business and redo all the different things at the resorts, but still like work with the things that do work. She's just trying to improve that. And so she's met with like walls and walls and walls, and her and West get to know each other again. And of course it ends up happy and great, and great things happen at the end, and you just see them as they are like growing together and seeing the changes and accepting changes. And it's a good book. Like it's really nice. The pacing and the timing were really good. I was invested in the story. I listened to a lot of it actually while I was working, and that was really cool. I really liked the voices on there. I have listened to most of Sunlight, which is the second book. I don't think I like how the guy is reading for Jax. Like when I read it, I'm like, oh yeah, I like these characters. But when I listen to it, I'm like, oh, he's kind of, like, kind of giving me the ick. Like, and of course, it's probably just the audio guy, which is fine. But I've really liked the story for that one. I think I like the first one still way much better because I like West better than Jax. But this second book is really good. Like I like it. I like the girl character. I like the story that is happening, and I'm not completely finished with it, which is like I'm gonna finish it like tonight. But overall, like it was good. Like I at least recommend the first book. I think that you should definitely read it, especially if you like cowboy romances at all, like Western or like, things like that. Like I think it's definitely a great read to put on your TBR and all that. So yeah, that is Crossroads and Sunlight. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you picked them up. They're really great. Definitely like and follow, subscribe, all those different things. I still have not done the giveaway yet. I hopefully will announce it this week. I just got to get everything ready and really sit down and decide what I want to do for it. So watch for it this week. And yeah, it's been a good time. It's been fun. And I'm grateful for you guys, and I'll talk to you next week.